All right, we're making one of these, PAPR shield, uh, and these are all the materials that we're going to need here. We have this laser cut component here. It has film on both sides, so we'll be peeling off one side of this. We have these, which are the same basic material, a little bit thicker than this though. These are also laser cut. That explains the little yellow edges we have here. It's fine. When you peel off the film, that'll disappear. So 2 of those. Your black adhesive stuff, some good scissors, and ideally some blue tape, but masking tape or even Scotch tape should work as well. Okay, so we've got a very clean work surface. For certain parts of this, we really can't wear gloves because a glove will stick too much to the adhesive, so washed hands really well, and we're set to go. Before we peel off, I would recommend don't peel off film until right before you're ready to actually do a certain step. So don't do this in like large batches where you peel every piece. You don't want this sort of static to attract dust and stuff. So here we go. Okay, so we're gonna first get this so that it's as flat and wrinkle free as possible. So I'm going to start by making sure I have a good straight edge. So I'm going to use a good clean edge of my piece here. Right, the rest of this has been cut, but I want the straight edge to be somewhere that I can lay these things down on. I'm going to try to just pull this so that there are no wrinkles. And I'm setting this up so that I'll actually be able to lay down 2 of these. So I have enough space for that at a time instead of just one. Make life easier. And I'm not really stretching it. I'm just trying to pull out the wrinkles. I'm not actually stretching the material. And that looks pretty darn good. It's I'm going to adjust this one. Okay, good. Okay, so we're gonna put the, take this piece and then attach the film to it next. And the film is gonna go, I don't know if you can see this very well, there's a little tick mark right there underneath this hole. So where that tick mark ends, just below that hole. And then same thing on this guy over here. That's where the film is gonna go all the way up to. So the adhesive, same thing, we're gonna start it right below that tick mark. That's our sort of gauge. The first thing we have to do with this guy, it's got protective film on both sides. We have to peel off one of the sides, and I've kind of already gotten this started. It can be a challenge to get it started. And then it should, one side of the film is easier to get off than the other. I ended up luckily with sort of the easy side. But you'll be able to get it off. We want to avoid touching this as much as possible. And the reason I'm doing this with my hands instead of gloves is because the adhesive that we're going to put on is, it'll just stick really, really well to gloves. So it'll be too much of a challenge, I think, to do that. So we'll just wash our hands really, really well first. So this is kind of a rubbery, stretchy adhesive. And again, we're going to start it right below that tick mark. So I'm going to be really careful with my placement as I peel this off. Okay, and then I'm leaving a little bit of a gap around the perimeter. I'm not going all the way up to the edge, maybe 1/8 of an inch or so. And unfortunately, you kind of get one shot with this. So you have to be pretty careful that it doesn't stick to anything else or itself, or it's gonna be kind of a scrap piece. You'll get the hang of it pretty quick, I think. So I'm just gently, very gently pressing it down. It sticks pretty well, and we'll smush it down better later on. Okay, we're gonna end this right at the other tick mark up here. So I'm gonna try to cut it, and maybe cut it just a teeny bit short if I'm ballparking this, because it's stretchy enough that I can stretch it a little bit longer if I have to, but this is actually pretty much perfect right up to there. Okay, good. Now I can lay it down over here. So now I've got my adhesive all on there, right? I'm gonna lay it down on here. So the straight edge here should go right all the way up to the very bottom of this little tick mark here, and then the other one's over here and here. So I'll try to get that alignment perfectly. Starting on one side, right there, gently down, line up this one. Let's make sure that last one gets lined up too. And then everything's nice and flat. We can just let it kind of flop down. And now we're gonna gently at first, and then a little bit more firmly press down here. This is a really good bond. We want to make sure we squeeze out any of the big air bubbles. You'll still see some little stuff in there, that's fine, as long as we just do a good job of getting all the little stuff, for sure. So the reason that we don't put the adhesive too close to the edge is we don't want it kind of squishing out. There we go, perfect. Okay, so now it's time to trim off the excess here. So I'm gonna keep everything taped down, and with scissors I'm just gonna come in here carefully, and you should be able to just slice right along that edge. Good. Okay, so now we're ready to attach these little side flaps, and the side flaps, they basically just help create the right shape when this thing opens up and goes over the person's face. So they restrict the film from opening too much. And the only difference between a medium and a large is these side flaps. The large has smaller ones to accommodate for a bigger head. So that's really it. Our side flaps are this clear material, again, the same stuff we used for the shield itself. They have the film on both sides, so I've already removed that, and it's very transparent now. So we'll need two for each one of these that we're gonna make. So we're going to take some of our sticky stuff again, and we're going to cut off, and you can get an approximate measure. We're going to basically put some along this length right here, so you can kind of ballpark it. I've done enough that I can just kind of ballpark it usually. And make sure you put it on the right side. If I'm going to make this one over here, I need to put the sticky stuff on the opposite side. So you can stretch this stuff a little bit. I usually cut it a little bit short, and then stretch it as needed. Same thing as before, we're just going to stay a little bit away from the edge and try to go most of the length here. And then this will line up right with the very top of the shield. and then along the perimeter. So we're gonna, before we do that, I wanna put a little bit on this flap here too, so don't skip that. Same thing, this is not super critical, we just wanna make sure that we kinda nail it down a little bit so it doesn't move, something like that, okay? So now, this one can go on. Just press it down, good, solid like that, okay? The other one's the exact same, just again, make sure you get the proper side here, so it's gonna be this side for the adhesive. Okay, lining these up just right. Okay, and then the last thing here is going to be, so that's it really, but I want to make sure I do a little quality check here. Make sure that everything is pressed down well. There are no like big bubbles. You'll see little bubbles, but that's okay. Just no big bubbles for air gaps. And then I'm just gonna show you the functionality looks the same as the last one, so that's good. That's good. All right. So there are two ways that you may receive your sheets of film here. They'll be folded up like this. So one way is just to unfold it. Is just this single sheet right here. That's a little bit more than a foot wide and a little bit more than 3 feet long. That's enough for 2 shields to get made. The important thing to note is that it will have one straight edge. Right here is the straight edge. This one was cut with scissors and it's not very exact. You should be able to identify that as not the straight edge. That's not the edge you're going to use when you're lining up your shield. This is the important one, okay? You should be able to tell which is which. The other way that you'll see some of these is, and I'm going to get this out of the way, there'll be just a single slit down the middle. So this is like a double wide, and there'll be a single slit down the middle. That is your straight edge. It will still be attached at either end here and here. You'll cut those with scissors, and then it basically turns it into one of the previous, or 2 of the previous ones. So you will not use this edge, or the edge over here. You'll use this edge that's in the middle that's split with a knife perfectly straight. So you'll just cut with scissors here, cut with scissors here, and then you'll stay away from that part that's been cut with scissors because it's not going to be perfectly straight. You'll do your layups more in the middle. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Everything will be sort of folded up like this when you get it. You'll just unfold it and go to town.